Welcome to Summarize, where every great book is transformed into powerful, clear, and easy-to-digest audio summaries. Save time, learn faster, and upgrade your mind, one book at a time. This is Summarize, Wisdom Made Simple. Think Like a Monk book by Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty begins Think Like a Monk with the observation that modern education teaches people what to think, but rarely teaches them how to think. From childhood, individuals are trained to compete, achieve, and accumulate, yet very few are taught how to manage fear, control desire, or cultivate peace. Despite advancements in technology and comfort, mental suffering has increased. Stress, anxiety, dissatisfaction, and comparison dominate everyday life. According to Shetty, this suffering is not caused by circumstances alone, but by an untrained mind reacting automatically to the world. Monks dedicate their lives to mastering the inner world. They understand that external success without internal stability leads to emptiness. Monk training focuses on clarity, discipline, awareness, and service, skills that are just as relevant in everyday life as they are in monasteries. The central promise of the book is simple. If you train your mind like a monk, you can live with purpose, peace, and direction without renouncing the world. Part 1. Let go. Unlearning what holds you back. The invisible burden of the mind. Shetty explains that most people are unaware of the weight they carry. This weight includes unresolved emotional pain, fear of judgment, inherited beliefs, constant comparison, mental noise. Because these burdens are invisible, people assume they are normal. Monks begin their journey by identifying and releasing this weight. Letting go is not loss, it is liberation. Ego, the root of mental suffering. Ego is the false self created by comparison and validation. It constantly asks, am I better than others? Do I matter? How do I look? Shetty explains that ego is fragile. When praised, it inflates. When criticized, it collapses. Ego ties self-worth to external outcomes, making peace impossible. Monks dismantle ego by observing it rather than feeding it. They act from values, not validation. This creates stability that does not depend on approval. Breaking free from comparison. Comparison is described as one of the most destructive habits of the modern mind. Social media amplifies this tendency, creating constant dissatisfaction. Monks avoid comparison by understanding that every individual has a unique path. Progress is measured against values, not against others. Shetty explains that comparison distracts from growth. Focus restores direction. Fear, attachment, and control. Fear often comes from attachment to outcomes, identities, or expectations. When people cling to results, they suffer. Monks train to detach from outcomes while remaining committed to effort. This balance allows action without anxiety. Detachment does not mean indifference, it means freedom from fear. Part 2. Grow, building mental strength. The power of awareness. Awareness is the foundation of all monk training. Without awareness, habits run unconsciously. Monks observe thoughts, emotions, and impulses without judgment. This observation creates choice. Where there is awareness, there is freedom. Shetty emphasizes that most suffering comes not from events, but from unconscious reactions. Meditation, strengthening the mind. Meditation is described as mental training, not escape. It builds the ability to observe thoughts, calm emotional reactivity, develop focus. Monks meditate consistently, not for spiritual status, but for clarity. Over time, meditation reshapes the brain, making calm the default state. Discipline over motivation. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is reliable. Monks do not wait to feel inspired. They follow routines that support growth regardless of mood. Shetty explains that discipline creates freedom by removing inner conflict. When actions align with intention, mental energy is conserved. Emotional mastery. Monks do not suppress emotions. They study them. Anger reveals unmet expectations. Fear reveals attachment. Sadness reveals loss. By understanding emotions rather than resisting them, monks transform emotional pain into insight. Part 3. Purpose, aligning life with meaning. Dharma, purpose through contribution. Shetty introduces Dharma as meaningful service aligned with personal strengths. Purpose is not found through self-focus, but through contribution. Fulfillment grows when effort benefits others. Monks discover purpose by asking, what am I good at? What does the world need? How can I serve? Redefining success and ambition. Monks do not reject ambition, they redefine it. Ambition guided by ego leads to burnout. Ambition guided by purpose leads to fulfillment. Shetty explains that true success includes inner peace, ethical action, positive impact. Work is worship. Work becomes meaningful when intention changes. Monks approach every task with presence and sincerity. Shetty explains that excellence is a form of service. When effort is offered fully, work becomes fulfilling regardless of recognition. Part 4. Give, transcending the self. Service as a path to joy. Service dissolves ego and expands perspective. Monks serve daily, understanding that fulfillment grows through giving. Helping others reduces self-obsession and builds gratitude. Compassion and forgiveness. Compassion arises from understanding pain. Monks recognize that harmful actions often come from suffering. Forgiveness frees the mind from resentment. It is not approval, it is release. Love without attachment. Monks practice love without control. Attachment creates fear of loss. Love encourages growth. Healthy relationships are built on respect, freedom, and shared values. Part 5. Live. Monk wisdom in daily life. Daily rituals and structure. Monks structure their days intentionally. Rituals reduce chaos and reinforce discipline. Morning routines cultivate clarity. Evening reflection strengthens awareness. Gratitude and contentment. Gratitude shifts focus from lack to abundance. Monks practice gratitude even during difficulty. Contentment does not mean complacency. It means peace with effort. Failure as a teacher. Failure is feedback. Monks analyze mistakes without shame. Self-worth remains intact regardless of outcome. Stillness in action. Stillness allows calm decision-making even in pressure. Monks remain centered amid activity. Stillness is internal, not external. Part 6. Mastering the inner world. Understanding the nature of the mind. Jay Shetty explains that the mind is not an enemy, but an instrument. Most people suffer because they let the mind run unchecked. Thoughts arise automatically, shaped by conditioning, memory, and habit. When these thoughts go unobserved, they dictate emotions and behavior. Monks are trained to watch the mind, not obey it blindly. By observing thoughts without judgment, they weaken the mind's control. Awareness interrupts automatic reactions and creates conscious choice. The mind, Shetty emphasizes, is a powerful servant but a dangerous master. Breaking the cycle of overthinking. Overthinking is described as repetitive, unproductive mental activity that drains energy without producing clarity. It often masquerades as problem-solving, but actually amplifies anxiety. Monks counter overthinking by grounding attention in the present moment. When the mind drifts into endless analysis, they gently return focus to breath, sensation, or action. Shetty explains that clarity comes from calmness, not mental noise. A quiet mind sees solutions more clearly than a frantic one. Detachment from outcomes. One of the most important monk principles is acting without attachment to results. Attachment creates fear, disappointment, and hesitation. Monks focus on effort, intention, and integrity rather than outcome. When results are favorable, gratitude arises. When results fall short, learning replaces regret. This mindset allows individuals to pursue goals boldly without being emotionally controlled by success or failure. Part 7. Purifying intentions and desires. Understanding desire. Shetty explains that desire itself is not harmful. Desire becomes destructive when it is driven by ego, insecurity, or comparison. Monks examine the source of desire. Does this desire come from fear? Does it arise from comparison? Does it align with values? When desire is aligned with service and growth, it becomes purposeful rather than obsessive. Minimalism of the mind. Monks practice simplicity not only in possessions, but in thoughts, commitments, and expectations. Shetty explains that excess commitments create mental clutter. By simplifying choices, monks preserve energy for meaningful action. Mental minimalism leads to clarity, focus, and peace. Freedom from validation. Seeking validation places power in the hands of others. Monks reclaim this power by grounding self-worth in values rather than opinions. Praise and criticism are treated equally, as temporary external feedback, not identity. Shetty explains that when validation loses control, authenticity grows. Part 8. Relationships, Love, and Human Connection. Understanding love through monk wisdom. Monks distinguish between love and attachment. Attachment seeks possession and control. Love seeks understanding and growth. Shetty explains that attachment creates fear of loss, jealousy, and insecurity. Love creates trust, freedom, and respect. True love, according to monk wisdom, is rooted in presence and compassion rather than expectation. Managing expectations in relationships. Expectations often create disappointment. Monks minimize expectations and maximize appreciation. Shetty explains that unmet expectations generate resentment. Appreciation fosters connection. By accepting people as they are rather than as imagined, relationships become lighter and more authentic. Compassionate communication. Monks communicate with awareness. Words are chosen intentionally, not reactively. Shetty emphasizes listening deeply rather than preparing responses. Understanding becomes more important than winning. This approach reduces conflict and strengthens bonds. Part 9. Discipline, Habits, and Daily Practice. The Power of Consistency. Monks understand that transformation comes from small, repeated actions. Discipline compounds over time. Shetty explains that waiting for motivation leads to inconsistency. Structure sustains progress. Daily meditation, reflection, and service shape the mind gradually but powerfully. Designing a monk-inspired day. A monk-inspired day prioritizes silence before stimulation, purpose before productivity, presence before performance. Shetty explains that mornings set mental tone. Even a few minutes of stillness can anchor the day. Evenings are used for reflection rather than distraction. Habits as identity builders. Habits reinforce identity. Monks choose habits that align with values. Shetty explains that every repeated action votes for the person one becomes. Discipline becomes easier when habits support identity. Part 10. Dealing with pain, loss, and suffering. Understanding suffering. Suffering arises from resistance. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Monks accept pain as part of life. By resisting less, they suffer less. Shetty explains that acceptance allows healing. Resistance prolongs pain, grief, and impermanence. Monks contemplate impermanence regularly. This awareness deepens gratitude and reduces fear of loss. Shetty explains that attachment intensifies grief. Acceptance softens it. Impermanence encourages presence. Forgiveness as liberation. Forgiveness is not forgetting or condoning harm. It is releasing resentment. Monks forgive to free the mind, not to excuse behavior. Forgiveness restores inner peace. Part 11. Stillness, Silence, and Inner Peace. The Power of Silence. Silence reveals the mind's patterns. Monks value silence as a teacher. Shetty explains that silence strengthens awareness and intuition. In silence, clarity emerges. Inner peace as a skill. Peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is cultivated internally. Monks train peace through awareness, discipline, and compassion. Peace becomes stable when rooted in practice. Think Like a Monk offers a timeless framework for navigating modern life with clarity and purpose. Jay Shetty demonstrates that monk wisdom is not outdated or impractical. It is urgently relevant. By letting go of ego, fear, and distraction, individuals lighten their inner load. By training the mind through discipline and awareness, they gain strength and focus. By serving others with compassion, they discover meaning beyond self-interest. Thinking like a monk does not require isolation or renunciation. It requires intention, presence, and commitment to growth. When the mind is trained, life becomes simpler. When intentions are clear, decisions become easier. When service guides action, fulfillment follows naturally. In a world that constantly pulls attention outward, Think Like a Monk reminds us that the greatest mastery is inner mastery, and that peace is not found elsewhere, but cultivated within. You've just listened to Summarize. If you enjoyed this summary, support the channel by liking and subscribing. It helps the knowledge reach more people. Until next time, keep learning.